Do you have a nano or PICO reef and you are tired of algae taking over your tank? Here's 12 tips to help keep that under control. Number 1, tank maturity. Look, you are on a journey to get your tank mature. When it gets there, it's going to be easier to handle algae and all these other issues. But just like you, look in the mirror. You are a beautiful adult, but you also went through this thing called puberty, and your tank is going to go through stages like that too, where it's not always beautiful, it's not always pretty, but it's part of the journey. And so when you get to that maturity, it will be a lot beautiful. So look in the mirror and remember, one day your tank will be beautiful just like you. Number 2 is finding your nutrients. See, algae grows from two things. It grows from light and it grows from nutrients. The nutrients is a pretty broad term, but it usually means your phosphates, your silicates, or your nitrates. But it can also mean your ammonia and nitrites as well. However, to make it simple, it can come from rock, it can come from sand, but it usually comes from uneaten fish food, fish poop, or unfortunately dead pets in the aquarium. Our task is to find where our nutrients are coming from and then getting rid of them effectively. You see, if we don't get rid of our nutrients, algae will. Algae is a good guy. He does our job when we don't. Number 3 is limit your stocking. The easiest way to keep nutrients out of your aquarium is to never have to add them in the first place. One of the best ways you can do that is by keeping things in your aquarium that don't require a lot of food and don't produce a lot of waste. My advice to you if you're having problems with algae in your aquarium is to use an invertebrate only aquarium. There are a lot of options for fun invertebrates in a PICO reef tank. I encourage you to check it out and it'll make your job a lot easier. Number 4 goes along very closely with number 3, and it is find a modest feeding schedule. Look, I know every different critter you keep in your aquarium is going to have different requirements when it comes to food. But one of the best ways you can limit nutrients in your aquarium is to find a very modest feeding schedule. Even in my nano reef tank, I actually only feed my aquarium every 2 to 3 days. Everything is healthy, everything is growing, except for that algae. Number 5 can be a bit of a no-brainer, but it's worth mentioning anyway. And that is manually removing the algae yourself. One of the most effective ways to get algae out of your aquarium is to just get it out of your aquarium. Cleaning it off of your rocks and cleaning it off of your glass is a great way to stop it from spreading and constantly making it start over in its life cycle. I totally recommend you regularly, if you have the algae, cleaning it off of your rocks with something like a turkey baster or a toothbrush, and cleaning it off of your glass with some type of razor scraper. And number 6 works really well with number 5 when you've scraped off that algae, and that is do a water change. One of the best things about PICO reefs is it is very easy to replace all of the water in your PICO reef and remove all of the bad nutrients and replenish it with all of the good nutrients. And the easiest way to do that is with a water change. So when you keep a small PICO reef and things are going wrong, also remember, you can change it very quickly with one water change. Number 7 is lighting. Look, we said algae grows from two things. It grows from nutrients and it grows from lighting. We've addressed nutrients a lot, but now it's time to talk about lighting. One of the best ways to keep algae from growing is to keep your light schedule short. I personally keep my PICO reefs on a 6-hour light cycle. Avoid having time at the night where it's on or using some type of night light to keep your tank lit. All that's growing is algae, it's not growing your corals. So if you're having problems with algae, maybe cut back on your light cycle and see if that does the job. Number 8 is keeping the good algae in your aquarium alive. A lot of people will use macroalgae to outcompete the other algae, nuisance algae, for nutrients, and that works very effectively. Me personally, I just keep algae, usually my hair algae that grows, and I just let it grow on the back wall of the aquarium. It helps absorb the nutrients that it needs to absorb, and I personally don't think it looks too bad. I actually like that it adds to the natural looking aquarium by keeping the natural looking algae where I want it and where it's away from the corals. Number 9 is making sure that we have adequate filtration in our aquarium. Whatever type of filtration you use, you want to make sure that it does have mechanical filtration, which means it's removing solids from the water, usually in a sponge type setting, and that has biological filtration, which is using bacteria to remove nutrients from the water as well. Look, I know this is the basics of reef keeping, but I want to call it the essentials of reef keeping, because without that, you're going to have a really hard time keeping algae and other things out of your tank. Number 10, ask for help from your cleanup crew. That's right. Get things like bristleworms, Nassarius snails, Astrea snails. Get whatever type of invertebrate you need to help clean up your aquarium and keep the algae away. Employ the help of these wonderful cleanup crews to help you do your job. Because in a PICO reef, a very little bit can go a very long way. Number 11 is towards the bottom of the list for a reason, and that's using chemical filtration. Look, I use ChemiPure in my PICO reef. I recommend it to everybody. But remember that it's not going to do the job by itself. You want to make sure that you're following all these other tips and doing a lot of other things, and using ChemiPure is kind of that thing that will push you over the edge. But using chemical filtration can be really beneficial to keeping that last little bit of algae from growing in your reef tank. And number 12 is one of the most important things I can give you, and that is to remember your job and your goal is to find balance in your aquarium. If you have an algae issue, you don't have an algae issue, you have a balance issue. Something isn't working in your cleaning schedule, in your nutrient cycle, in the age of your aquarium. Something else is going on, and your goal is to achieve balance in your PICO reef. Don't lose sight of that goal. And once you achieve that goal, algae will go away all on its own. I know there was a lot of information in this video. My ask for you is just take one or two of these tips, apply it to your reef tank, and just see if it makes a difference in your battle with algae. If you found any of this information useful in your battle with algae, please like and subscribe this video. It means a lot to me and it helps me out quite a bit. Thanks for watching and enjoy reef keeping.